Hey guys. Hey guys. Hey guys. Hey guys. Hey guys. Hey guys. Hey guys.
Hey guys!
All right, so this lesson 14 is all about graphing linear functions. In the last lesson, we talked about how graphing lines are usually in this form, and we practiced solving for y to put it in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Now we're just going to be using those equations to draw the line on a graph. So the first method that we are going to show you for graphing lines is just doing them out by hand by using the equation. The next method that we'll do on the back side of this paper is using the calculator to graph the line. All right, number one, using the equation of the line, graph this line, y equals 2x plus 1. So the first step that we want to do is to make sure that the function is written in the proper form, y equals mx plus b. So looking at this equation, is it written in that form?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Okay, so from here, we need to be able to identify the slope and the y-intercept of that line. So remember, the slope is the number that comes right in front of the x, is 2. The y-intercept is just that plain number at the end, so 1. So to begin graphing your lines by hand, this is what I always like to do. Plot the y-intercept first, because we know for sure that that is where the line will always cross the y-axis. So this line will always cross the y-axis at 1. At 1. Then from here, we're going to use our slope, and we're going to use the rise over run to plot more points. So if it's just a plain number, you see what I did? Put a little 1 under it. So now the rise tells us how far up we're going to plot, and the run tells us how far over we're going to go. So starting at the y-intercept, we're going to go up 2 and over 1 to plot a new point. Then we'll do it again. Up 2 over 1, plot a new point. Up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1 to plot more points. And if you want to extend your line, you can start at the y-intercept and go back the other way. Go down 2 and over 1 to continue. Now, once you have all your dots plotted, connect them. Make sure that you are drawing arrows on the ends of your line to let us know that this line continues on and on and on. And label your line with the original equation. So give this line a name. This is the line 2x plus 1. And that's it.
All right, let's take a look at the next one. Following the same steps that Miss Barley just used. All right, we are going to graph this line right here. So if we look at step 1, is it in y equals mx plus b form? The answer to that is no. So we have y plus 3 equals 2/3 x. We want y by itself, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. I get y equals 2/3 x minus 3. All right, so just like Miss Barley did before, what is the slope? The slope is the number that is connected to the x, so it's 2 over 3. What's the y-intercept? Negative 3. So we're going to go right now and plot the y-intercept, which is negative 3. Be careful, it's not a positive 3, it's a negative 3, and that's right here. Now my slope is going to be just like Miss Barley said. The first number tells me how many to go up. This one tells me how many to go over. So I'm going to go up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. Up 2, 1, 2, 3, over 3. You can do the same thing and go down. Down 2, 1, 2, 3, over 3. Down 2, 1, 2, 3, over 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and connect these points. Again, like Miss Barley said, you want to make sure you have arrows. If you don't have arrows, guys, you're going to have points taken off because that's a line segment. This is a line that continues on and on. Now, this is a little different than what Miss Barley did in the example above. You make sure you label it with your original. Now, we did some changing to ours to make sure it was in y-intercept form, but when we label, we're going to go back to this one right here. So I'm going to label this y plus 3 equals 2/3 x. All right, so when you're done with these, go ahead, let's turn it over and look at the back side of your paper.
You're going to need a calculator to do this side, so if you don't have one right now, pause the video, get up and get yourself a calculator. All right, so now we are going to begin using our calculator. It's a very good tool to help us out in this class. We're going to learn how to use it in our, I don't know what I'm saying. Now, for example number 2. Following the same steps, we want to graph this line right here. 2y equals 4x plus 2. So the first step is to make sure that it's written in the proper form. Y equals mx plus b. Is this line written in the correct form? No. So we need to solve for y. So over here, I'm just going to do it up here. We need to get the y all by itself. So what do? Divide everything by 2. So we'll get y equals, what is 4 divided by 2? 2x plus, what is 2 divided by 2? 1. So this is the line that we are graphing, okay? Now that it's written in the proper form, we can go on our calculator and type it in. So turn your calculator on. Turn your calculator on. Hit the y equals button. It's in the top left-hand corner of your calculator. And this will allow you to type in the equation for any line. So we're going to hit 2. The X button is right here, right next to the green button. That's the X that we're going to use. Plus 1. Now, if you want to, you can hit the graph button to look to see what your line will look like. Okay? But more importantly, your calculator will give you a list of all the x and y values to plot on the graph. So if you hit the second button, that blue button, and then the graph again, if you notice, this is all the points that are on this line. I want you guys to make sure that you have enough points to cover the whole graph, so include some negative x values and some positive x values. And take a second right now to pause the video and copy this table onto your notes. Okay, so you took the list from your calculator, you copied that onto your paper. Now, these are the points that will help you plot your line. So going on the graph, the first point that I'm going to plot is this one right here. It's like a -2, -3. That's the coordinate I'm plotting. Remember, when you're graphing, the x always comes first and then the y value. So I need to find -2 on the x-axis, and then from there I go down 3 units because it's a negative. Then I go to the next point, -1, -1. 0, +1, 1, 3, and then the point 2, 5. So do you see how your points are all going in a row? They're making a line. Again, connect the dots. Make sure you're drawing arrows on the ends, and label your line with your original function.
Okay, let's take a look at the next one. All right, so we notice it's kind of looks ugly here. So, okay, so we want to rewrite this and get y by itself. So this guy right here, he is going to stay right there. I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. I get -2y equals -8x plus 10. And I kind of just switched the orders of those because I wanted this to be in y equals mx plus b form. Divide each side by -2, and I get y equals a negative and a negative give me a positive, and a positive and a negative give me a -5. So what I want you to do right now is, using the steps that Miss Barley just gave you in the last example, put this into your calculator. Okay, so you should have a table that kind of looks like this in your calculator. Now, I am going to start at -2. It's okay if I can't graph all of the points, but at least I have them written down. So I'm going to go -2, the y value is 13, -1, -9, 0, -5, 1, -1, 2, 3. Now, it's okay that I'm not going to be able to graph this point, but I have a couple other points that I will be able to graph. So I'm going to go to -1, -9, which is right here. The next point is 0, -5. That point's right there. 1, -1, and 2, up 3. Okay, so those are all my points. You want to make sure that when you graph this line, you extend your line off the graph, and you're going to understand why we're telling you to do that in a later unit. So make sure that this line is extended off the graph, okay? Again, you'll find out in another unit why we're extending it now. All right, so all my points are there. The last step is to label with my original, so I'm going to put 8x minus 2y equals 10.
All right, so from here, I would just suggest picking a method that you like. You know, solving for y and doing it by hand, or using the table off of your calculator. Find a method, stick with it, get your classwork, and good luck.